that natural byproduct is processing it, is releasing it, is making space for feelings of the confidence, the clarity, belief, joy, love, peace, presence. And you don't have to do anything to feel that. Like I said before, people are looking for this instant gratification to jump towards. Let me feel confident. Let me feel joy. Let me feel belief. Let me feel this. And then that's how the addictive patterns start, because you're getting that quick hit. You're getting that quick dopamine hit. But you're not addressing those root causes of why you're not naturally feeling it. Hey, beautiful. Welcome to Naturally Empowered Living, your safe space to guiding you on your unapologetic self-awakening journey. This is your weekly sanctuary for waking up from autopilot and transforming the way you approach life through the power of meditation, energetics, and root cause therapy. It is my mission to help you heal unprocessed emotions and release stuck energies by alchemizing your struggle cycles into opportunities for deep self-love, awareness, trust, and connection, to return to your innate essence of being, stepping back into your energy of alignment. Because here, we honor all parts of ourselves, the messy and the magic, the shadows and the light, embodying all parts that make you, you. So if you are ready to get to the root of cultivating real change, get cozy, grab your journal and maybe favorite crystals, and let's discover our power within together. What is up, beautiful listeners? Welcome back to another episode of the Naturally Empowered Living podcast. This is your host, Jenna Smith, and let's dive into today's episode. I had a download in the shower. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I just had this epiphany moment, and I was like, this is going to be perfect to talk to the podcast, just to bring this to light. And it was like a big moment for me, but it's also, I think it's going to be very impactful for you listening, and just hopefully to shed a little light, to bring kind of just allow a softening, if you will, in terms of coming home to yourself, in terms of accepting all that is, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between, like completely neutral, talking, like there's no good, bad emotions here, but just really allowing a softening of welcoming and accepting what is and who we are, and just loving who we are and loving this life and believing in yourself. And I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I kind of want to backtrack with a little bit of story time, because I really want to give a little bit of context here. This could be probably a 5-minute episode, but I love to bring in that context and the story, and just to really make this, to paint this picture with you, because again, this is life. This is life, and we can make it as hard or as simple or as peaceful or as loving and beautiful and just grateful and abundant as we perceive it, right? So I'm going back to the days when I used to work in oncology. I used to always say, I would tell my patients this, I'd be like, if we don't have our health, we have nothing. And that might sound like a little extreme, because I worked in oncology. I was a radiation therapist. I worked with people that actually, I was treating cancer patients. But obviously you build a relationship with these people, and they, not to bring stereotype, I worked in a small town, and not to bring stereotype, I know I said that, but they were all stubborn, farm men, right? And that took so long to come in to get seen in the first place, because they just, didn't have time. They were working hard, just very much in terms of stubborn old men who didn't want to come in for treatment, and they didn't have time for this, and they had to go work and blah, blah, blah. I would tell them, we made these connections, and it was always in love, right? And I would say if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So let's finish these next, month, 2 months, and, then we'll see, I'm not the doctor here, but this is my 2 cents. So this is still technically true. I still believe in this, right? If we don't have our health, we have nothing. But I've also evolved into this meaning a little bit, as I've evolved into this calling within my life, and why I'm here and what I'm meant to be doing in this lifetime. And this episode was inspired by a conversation that I had with my son in the garage. And after this all came to fruition, I thought of that quote, not that quote. I thought of that, what I would always say to my patients in the cancer clinic. And I was like, oh, that really goes along well with what this episode could be. So this episode was inspired by a conversation though that I had with my 6-year-old son in the garage. And he was struggling. We were coloring and drawing in the garage, and he did something quote unquote wrong. Like he did something he didn't want to do, or he, like the proportion, the size of the picture, like he didn't have space to make what he wanted to make or whatever it was. He was just being really hard on himself. He was just like, talking himself down. Like it, to me, I'm like, okay, like the Virgo moon in me, I'm like trying to find a solution and like, let's try to, and then being the mom also, like trying to fix this, let's find a solution. And I paused because it was hard for me to hear him like talk down on himself, calling himself like a failure, or like I can't draw, like things like this, when I know in my logical brain, like this is the process, like he's in his emotional state right now. And I paused. I thought of this 6-year-old boy, and then, in another context, his many water and fire placements in his birth chart. I'm talking, my Virgo moon, right? He's got a lot of water and a lot of fire placements on top of, like, I know him, right? And we all know this world that we live in. There's stereotypes of, what boys should do and what girls should do. So it's like I'm in this quick, 5 seconds, I'm like filtering all this through me. And I'm like, stop trying to fix, Jenna. Stop trying to find a solution here. Give him the space to just be and vent for a minute. Let him feel what he's going through. And I did just that. Like, I just let him vent and I let him go. And obviously, like, I was right there and I wasn't leaving. And it turned into be this awesome moment in our relationship, just with conversation. And it evolved into, I'll share like I'll spare the details. But how the conversation ended was, I said, you know what? I said, do you know the one thing, if I could teach you and your sister one thing in this life, there are so many that I want to teach you guys, but if there's one thing, do you want to know what that is? And he like instantly snapped out of it. And he's like, what? I was like, if there's one thing that I would want to teach you and your sister to learn from me, it would be to love yourselves unconditionally. To love every piece, every part of who you are. The parts that make you, you. Even the parts that other people might not accept. Even the parts that you sometimes have trouble accepting. And to learn how to welcome and honor all of those parts that make you who you are. And to be authentic, to be you, to be confident, to be authentic in being who you are. And if and when you fail, or you make that wrong turn in life, to be confident that you'll figure it out. To trust your discernment. To trust your heart. That you'll always figure it out and always come out on the other side. And to have that belief in yourself. To have that belief in that knowing that you always have the answers within you. That confidence, that trust, that belief, that is loving yourself unconditionally. And that is what I want to teach you. And he immediately just softened and we just embraced and hugged. And it was just like this beautiful moment. But I was like, yeah, that is. If I could teach my children one thing in this life, that would be it. And then fast forward a couple days in when I was in the shower, by golly, like I get the most clarity, the clearest downloads when I'm in the shower. If you haven't listened to episode 124, oh my gosh, go back and listen to it, because I share about a quick meditation that you could run through within 5 minutes of your day to cleanse, protect, and ground your energy and call your energy back in. And I do this a lot in the shower because the water is physically, washing over you. So you could feel that, obviously the water, but imagine it being, a color, and imagine it being the energy, flushing and cleansing and things like that. So I did this practice in the shower, and I swear to you, oh my gosh, like I get the clearest downloads in the shower. So I had this huge epiphany moment, and I was like, holy shit. I go, that conversation that I had with Jace, like what I want, like if there's one thing that I could teach them in this life, that's what I'm doing with my clients. And it was just like this huge, like, whoa, like nothing else matters. And of course, like, yeah, so much, so many other things matter. But the simplicity of this is what I'm meant to be doing. Like everything resides in this knowing, in this belief, in this acceptance, in this embodiment. Like self-awakening starts here. I swear to you, every single one of my sessions at some point within their, program and their duration of working together, there comes this awakening. And I like renamed my tagline, like self-awakening starts here, because it's so powerful. And like whenever it like hits, I'm just like, yes, like, oh my gosh, it's palpable. And maybe like self-awakening doesn't land well with you. So you could insert coming back home to yourself, or being true to who you are, loving yourself, believing in yourself, being yourself, having the trust in yourself to possibly slow down and connect with yourself, being confident in who you are. Like confidence, I may have said this already on the show, but I heard a definition of confidence from, I believe it was Dr. Becky Kennedy recently, and I was just like, this just hits home. She defines confidence as having the experience of knowing how you feel and believing it's okay to be yourself in that feeling, in that moment. Like, oh my gosh. Confidence is the experience of knowing how you feel, believing it's okay to be yourself in that feeling, in whatever moment that you're in. I could just like mic drop right here, right? And it was so monumental for me in that moment that, I mean, there's always so many things that I want to share on this show. There's already always so many things that I feel that I could talk about. But this is it. Like, this is it, because I know how many people are struggling. I know how many people, might look confident or might look happy on the outside, but they are struggling so hard on the inside. And like, I want to help that. Like, there is beauty and power and this other level of being truly who you are. Like truly being you. And a nice little cherry on top here, since we're kind of already in this, I'm spilling little astrology things. I had an astrology session this morning. If you can't tell, I'm like in that zone right now. But we are in the age of Aquarius. And it's so funny. When I started my blog, I was postpartum back in 2020. My little tagline then was thinking differently, helping you think differently. Like I used to say that all the time. And I'm just like, no one knew what it meant. But I'm like, I just have, like, I want to help you think differently. And then it like evolved into like thinking differently to see differently, like, how you perceive your world and this, that. And then I didn't know at the time, but then I realized I'm an Aquarius rising. And like, it all made sense because like Aquarius is like being different. And there's, oh my gosh, it was just like this huge, I just love these epiphany type full circle moments. But I'm like, yes, that is why I'm here. Like when we change, or if someone tells us that we changed, or maybe like our friend groups evolve, or we're in a different circle, or we just feel like we don't like the same things that we used to like, in so many different instances in life, this is just one of them. When we feel like possibly we've changed, or someone tells us that we've changed, we look at that as a bad thing, or we look at that as like, oh yeah, what am I doing wrong? But what if, think of it like this, think differently, what if you're revealing more of your true self? Like, you might not just be changing, you're stepping into who you truly are. You're shedding parts of yourself that no longer serve you, or possibly you're shedding parts of yourself that aren't you to begin with. So I want to leave you with some woo and some tangible tips, because you know that I love to merge these two things so often. So I want to paint a picture for you, and I invite you to sit with this. I mean, after this episode is done, like, sit with this for a little bit. I want to give you two examples here, okay? Two different examples of how you can go about your day and to live your life, okay? So one being that you are always trying to make everyone else happy. You don't listen to how you feel. You might not have a sounding board or safe space to talk about how you feel, so you just shove it under the rug. You don't listen to what you want. You're struggling with people pleasing and the expectations and all the shoulds, and you're burnt out and you're overwhelmed, and you're finding yourself in these same looping self-sabotaging patterns, and you can't figure out, like, why can't I get to XYZ? Why can't I stop doing XYZ? Maybe you give into some peer pressures that they're not necessarily serving you well, but I mean, this is what my friends are doing, or this is what my loved ones are doing, or whatever it is, and you just go along with it rather than trusting, your inner guidance here. Or possibly you fall into addictive patterns to get that quick dopamine hit, and now you repeat that cycle again and again and again. And then the other example is you are at peace and you accept who you are. You still struggle. You have conflict in your life. You stress, you get overwhelmed. But you hold this trust and belief in yourself that it'll pass. You'll figure it out. There's always going to be that light at the end of the tunnel, right? You set respectful boundaries with people that don't bring you peace or joy, or that don't treat you well. It's not oh my gosh, that word. It's not a reciprocal relationship. There we go. So you set those healthy boundaries for yourself. You're confident in your beliefs and who you are, and that if someone disagrees with your morals or values or decisions, you respect that. You respectfully accept that they are their own person on their own journey, and they have their life ahead of them. You hold awareness within your life, your habits, and even though that there might be some turbulence in your life, or within different seasons of your life, or changes that are kind of stressful or overwhelming, you know that it's going to be okay. You trust yourself that it's for the best and it's for your highest good, and you're intentional with your evolution, and you are humbly learning a little more of who you are every day. Now, using those two types of people, giving this quick example here, as if like those descriptions weren't already an example in itself, right? But this example that I want to paint for you is kind of putting both of those people in the same bucket, okay? So if you try to get specific people's attention, like you are seeking out people's attention, right? Or you're forcing yourself to find this job, or you're in this very forceful, demanding energy, you're going to be siphoning, literally giving that energy toward that person, or toward that job, or toward that whatever it is that you're forcing. And that means the people that are supposed to notice you, the people that are supposed to come into your life, the job that's supposed to be presented to you, the opportunities that are supposed to come to you, they're being blocked or resisted. And yes, I do believe that everything will always come back to us. But what if we released that resistance, or released that force a little bit to make it a little easier to come back to us, right, on that loop? Because it's not for us to decide whose attention we give our energy to. And I hope that makes sense, because what is up to us is to freely and authentically be ourselves. Not what we think anyone else wants us to be like. Not what we think this new friend wants you to be like. Not what we think we should get this job because that's what someone told me to do. And that's what I should be doing, even though like my heart is in this place, right? It is up to us to be our authentic selves, beaming our light and our gifts, giving our essence of who we truly are out, and then letting the universe do the rest. It's like the Harry Potter sorting hat, right? Like, what house are you supposed to be into? Like, using that lingo, because what is meant to be will find its way. And by golly, I don't know how many times within my life when I surrendered to that and let go of the force, it has always been so much better. And I'm sure like you've probably heard some sort of terminology in regards to that, of like, I had this plan, but God's plan was so much better. Like there's always, you think of it in any light, any capacity that you want to. But when we release the force and allow what to be will be, gosh, like it's so much better than we could have ever tried to control anyways, right? So there's a couple things like within that example that I want to kind of bring to light. And One is a cycle that I want you to kind of see here. Like life is always about lessons being learned, lessons being taught, and they're in loops. And I'm not putting a positive or negative, a good or bad on here. I'm talking neutral. Like karma is very, very neutral. What you focus on expands, what you give off comes back to you. So if you've ever realized that like the same types of things keep happening to you, or the same occurrences or similar occurrences like keep popping up, you're like, what is going on? That's a loop. And you could start paying attention to the different loops within your life. So in terms of bringing this kind of full circle and leaving you with something to really sit with after, this episode is over, is if I could give you now one step, that first step, maybe the first two steps that go hand in hand in terms of loving yourself and believing and trusting and being confident in who you are, it would be this: having awareness and acceptance. And that acceptance and awareness comes in terms of you. All parts of you. The shadows, the light, the messy, the magic, like the things that just flow to you, like all parts that make you you. And specifically in terms of talking about emotions and feelings and that suppression piece and feeling like you can't be all of you, or you have to stay quiet because, you're too loud in the room, or all those things, like you feel like you have to sit down versus stay standing. When we stop blocking and pushing down our hard feelings and emotions, feeling joy and peace and ease is a natural byproduct because you're making space for it. Like, yes, there's a lot of work and there's a lot of processing and probably a lot of ups and downs and roller coasters because we're not used to actually feeling the feelings. We're not used to allowing anger to fully process. We're not used to allowing the guilt or the shame to fully process. We're so quick to shove it down, to push it down farther because it's not accepted, or it's not, it's frowned upon, or someone's telling you to be quiet, or you don't have that safe space to talk it out. Like, this is our life's work. And if you're listening to this, and if you've been here with me since the very beginning of the show, like, we've evolved quite a bit, don't get me wrong, but I would talk a lot at the beginning of this show about our life work. And this is the work that a lot of people have no interest in doing. They completely look over it because it's not instant gratification. They're looking at the solution and they're chasing the solution. They're chasing that end result that they want, but they're not looking at like the how to get there, right? Like this is a hard pill to swallow. And this is a whole episode in itself. And I understand that the act of surrender and trusting the process of like, okay, I'm supposed to feel my anger and I'm going to feel, joy afterwards. Like, there's a lot of trusting the process here because it's going to feel uncomfortable. You might not know like what you're doing to begin with, right? But this is the life work in accepting and honoring all parts that make us who we are. And that natural byproduct is belief, is confidence, is loving and trusting yourself. Once we start to see these shadow parts of ourselves, accept these shadow parts of ourselves, these emotions and feelings that have been suppressed or distracted or projected towards someone else or something else, will start to come to the surface and we can turn inward. That natural byproduct is processing it, is releasing it, is making space for feelings of the confidence, the clarity, belief, joy, love, peace, presence. And you don't have to do anything to feel that. Like I said before, people are looking for this instant gratification to jump towards. Let me feel confident. Let me feel joy. Let me feel belief. Let me feel this. And then that's how the addictive patterns start, because you're getting that quick hit. You're getting that quick dopamine hit. But you're not addressing those root causes of why you're not naturally feeling it. We so often try to chase the happiness or chase the things that are already within us. So this is my invitation to you to just allow yourself, give yourself 5-10 minutes after this episode to just sit and be, and just like allow yourself to process what you took away from this episode. Take what resonates, release what doesn't, and just give yourself that space to allow your downloads to naturally come in. And I would always love to hear from you. You know that. Email me at hello@naturallymempoweredliving. I would love to hear what resonated with you. Send me an Instagram. Send me a message on Instagram, Naturally Empowered Living. And until next week, as always, simply be you. You have everything inside of you to learn your energy of alignment and be unapologetic in who you are. I'm sending my love and so much light.
Did you find this episode freeing or empowering? Please read my review. Tickle, boop.
Thank you for spending the sacred time with me on Naturally Empowered Living. If this episode brought you closer to stepping into your energy of alignment, I'd love for you to leave a written review and share how this show has supported your journey. Your feedback truly lights me up and helps others find the space of transformation. And sharing it with someone who might need it spreads the ripple of healing even further. Be sure to check the show notes for ways to connect with me and explore personalized healing sessions and mentorships to deepen your self-awakening journey. Thank you. I appreciate all you are and all you do.